Harry didn't get pushed down the royal ladder. He swan-dived off it, and Meghan brought the step-stool for the landing. Here's what you're about to learn. Why the Constitutional Review isn't PR fluff, but a live legal fuse. How the website Demotion telegraphed this weeks ago, who inside the palace and parliament is actually pulling the levers, the Privy Council mechanism that turns whispers into law, what Harry's emergency dash to London really signals, and the 3 most likely outcomes for the Sussex titles, including what each path means for Archie and Lilibet. Let's start where the mask slipped. The royal website. Quiet edits, lower billing, a digital shove down the pecking order. It looked petty to some, procedural to others, but inside Buckingham Palace, that was the soft open. The hard launch came with a single line from the broadcasters, a review of titles for non-working royals. Translation for anyone still clinging to the fairy tale: if you walk away, you don't get to rent the crown on weekends. The trigger wasn't one interview or one headline, it was the build-up. Years of memoir teardowns, streaming deals styled as truth bombs, and a rolling PR tour that kept recutting the same family wound. Inside the palace, streamlining has become the house word for accountability. And when the king met quietly with senior courtiers and constitutional advisors, the message was unmissable. This isn't personal. Until it is, cue the scramble. Within hours of the review breaking, flight trackers lit up. A jet leaving Santa Barbara, a passenger list that needed no confirmation, a route the press could follow with their eyes closed. No Netflix cameras, no staged candids, no hand-holding walk to the SUV. Just a son flying back to the institution he spent years torching, because this time the scorch marks might reach his name. Inside London, the choreography snapped into place. Clarence House lights on late. Legal pads on polished tables. Phones set to silent. The king's line is simple: the crown is not a co-brand, and titles are not coupons. The Privy Council's role makes it drier but deadlier, because if you build the process right, emotion doesn't matter. It's constitutional plumbing, not tabloid thunder. Enter William. The official stance stays frosty. No comment. The private view is colder. You cannot monetize mystique and then complain when the mystique pushes back. Insiders call it the no branding the crown doctrine. It's not poetry, but it's policy, and policy is what outlasts headlines, and that's where the timing turns sharp. The review isn't floating in the ether. It's tethered to parliament chatter about defining what non-working royals can do with their honorifics. This is where tradition meets statute. A bill wouldn't need to mention names to hit targets. Non-working, commercial use, misrepresentation. These are terms with teeth when drafted by people who want clarity rather than buzz. Back to the jet. He lands. He moves. No terminal stroll, no press line patter, no performative smile. A convoy cuts through London, and a door closes on the meeting he's avoided since the day he said, "We're stepping back," and then try to step back in whenever it suited the narrative. The conversation, by all accounts, isn't a conversation. It's a collision. A father speaks for the institution. A son speaks for himself. The distance between those two positions is the entire problem condensed to a single room. Harry's case is familiar. Birthright, duty mishandled by security downgrades, the permanent echo of Diana's name. The king's reply is the newer doctrine. You cannot reject the structure and keep the status. If you insist on freedom, you accept the bill. In that framework, love does not trump law, and pain does not overwrite procedure. Then the temperature drops 10 degrees. William arrives. Not announced, not scheduled, not smiling. The brothers' dialogue is a cold mirror. One says betrayal. The other says choice. One invokes their mother. The other demands her memory stop being weaponized in press tours. It isn't a shouting match. It's worse. It's precision. A sentence each. A verdict in subtext. The heir speaks like a man who knows the future sits in paperwork, not podcasts. Back in California, the phones start ringing. PR, legal, sympathizers, a few editors who've run the playbook before. The problem this time is fatigue. Even allies privately admit the audience is split and softening. In Britain, the hashtag is fury. In America, it's sympathy, but thinner than it used to be. The more this becomes about governance rather than gossip, the worse it is for any "we're just trying to live" narrative. Meanwhile, the palace keeps it glacial. A statement confirms the review will proceed in coordination with constitutional advisors. No names, no drama, no adjectives. The lack of adjectives is the tell. When the monarchy wants to hurt you, it doesn't raise its voice. It erases your options. Let's reopen the bigger question. What exactly is at stake? First, the style and substance of titles. HRH is a style. Dukedom is a substantive peerage. Adjusting styles can be done with stamped, starchy wording. Altering peerages brushes the edges of Parliament. That's why the Privy Council nod matters. Process cushions power. Second, the children. Archie and Lilibet exist at the intersection of birthright and redefined duty. If the framework shifts to titles held in trust for service, the path narrows. Nothing is retroactive by accident. Everything is signaled with care. Now, why the website demotion matters more than it looks. The royal site is the public ledger of who counts for what. Placement equals priority. Priority equals purpose. When names slide down those pages, it's the digital version of moving your desk to the basement. You still technically work here. You just don't see the light. Here's how this likely plays out, and you should listen closely because this is the part most people miss. Outcome 1. Status quo with steel edges. HRH remains unused, titles remain intact, but an explicit protocol bans commercial deployment. Every violation triggers consequences in real time. No more gentle letters, just public corrections. Outcome 2. Style stripped, substance kept. The HRH style is formally removed from usage across documents and communications, while the dukedom stays, neutered for commerce, neutral for ceremony. It's the cleanest political compromise. Outcome 3. The nuclear administrative option. A coordinated move with Parliament defines non-working royal conduct so precisely that any breach automatically suspends styles, patronages, and possibly the functional use of the dukedom title in official contexts. Not erased, frozen. It's harsh, legal, and very 21st century, which brings us back to motive and message. Is this revenge? That makes good headlines and bad history. Institutions don't do revenge, they do precedent. The monarchy's job is to exist tomorrow, not win today's spat. And precedent says brand wars kill you slower than scandals, but kill you deeper. If the crown becomes a logo anyone can slap on a deal, it stops being a crown. That's the quiet heartbeat under all of this. The human angle still matters. A son asked a father to pull the brake. The father didn't. A brother asked a brother to stop selling pain. The brother wouldn't. A mother's name was invoked by both, and neither can prove the other wrong to a public that projects its own family dramas onto theirs. But the system doesn't adjudicate feelings. It codifies behavior. Meghan's countermove is predictable and understandable. Shape the story before it shapes you. Emphasize values, de-emphasize titles, stress safety, stress motherhood. It worked when this was a culture